Update, brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300. Manx Radio's Update with Andy Wint.
First of May, good evening, it's 5:30. This is Update for Tuesday, 7th of November 2023 from Manx Radio. 30 minutes looking at the latest news on the Isle of Man. Background to the news, we got sport and business and Sea Watch and travel updates and the newsmakers in person. This evening, Keys could take the Bishop's Tynwald vote away. Do local authorities want a housing association on the island? Crimestoppers has had over 350 calls this year. The importance of learning the Manx language and the big netball tournament got underway today here at the home of the Halfway Horse Tram.
Man Benham for all your business and legal needs.
First of all, at 29 minutes ahead of 6 o'clock, the Update News headlines. First to my Christian Jones.
Fast to my, the House of Keys has taken another step towards potentially stripping the Bishop of their vote in Tynwald. Laurie Hooper has been given leave to introduce a bill, which if successful would also mean the head of the Manx Church wouldn't have a say in the Legislative Council. Meanwhile, a committee's been set up which will scrutinise the clauses of the Assisted Dying Bill. Douglas North MHK David Ashford described the laws as one of the most fundamental social changes in our living memories. And the Chief Constable's been setting out his top priorities for the next 5 years, which will see the police force put emphasis on being victim-focused, visible and approachable. Ross Foster wants to see more protection of those at risk of domestic abuse, reduce reoffending rates and tackle organised crime. In international news, the monarch's given his first King's Speech to the UK's Parliament, outlining the government's plans for the next coming year, but the contents are being criticised by opposition parties. Meanwhile, an emergency Cobra meeting's being held to discuss the impact of the Middle East conflict on the UK. There are concerns there could be trouble on Armistice Day on Saturday because of breakaway groups from a major rally planned for central London. And 2 former bosses have pleaded guilty to health and safety offences after 11 people broke their backs in the space of a year at a trampoline park in Cheshire. The men who ran Flip Out in Chester will be sentenced at a later date. Those are the Update News headlines, next at 6.
Man Benham. Contact us by phone, video call, email or face-to-face. We're happy to connect with you. Manx Radio Weather with Manx Glass and Glazing.
Goromaya, thank you, Christian. From the Ronaldsway Met Office, there's a strong wind warning in operation for the North Irish Sea, also with occasional gales, state of seas light or moderate and rough overnight. The weather this evening, cloudy, ahead of some heavy rain on the strong to near gale force southerly through the night. The minimum temperature is 6 degrees. For Ukraine, drying up tomorrow morning on a fresh to strong southerly, then sunny spells as the wind backs southwesterly. Daylight maximum 12, some showers after dark and down to 7 through the night. For Jordan, Thursday unsettled with sunny intervals, scattered showers and a moderate to fresh southwesterly wind. Top temperature 10 on Thursday. Tides on the way back in, high waters 9 minutes past 7, low tide 7 minutes after 2 a.m, sunrise 28 minutes before 8 and high water 19 minutes past 8.
Manx Glass and Glazing can supply and install single, double and triple glazing. Call 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
The House of Keys has taken another step towards potentially stripping the Bishop of his vote in Tynwald. MHKs have voted for Ramsey politician Laurie Hooper to be given leave to introduce a bill which, if successful, would also mean the head of the Manx Church wouldn't have a say in the Legislative Council. The House of Keys said yes today by 2 votes. 2 who voted not in favour of Mr Hooper's motion were Jason Morehouse and Andrew Smith.
He represents so many people in our community and impartially, and he can bring a great perspective.
But isn't the Bishop having a vote an anachronism? Something from years gone by, an old habit of
I think it's part of that. Well, yes, it may be part of the establishment. I think it's very, very important because the Church still plays a big part in our establishment, whether you are a believer or non-believer. Rest assured, this winter time, the Church, irrespective of what's just happened with the boat, whether you're a believer or a non-believer, will be welcoming to anybody and everybody for a warm space and a meal if so required.
Jason Morehouse, you also feel strongly on this?
Yeah, do. I think it's important just in terms of tradition and also in which Tynwald works. The bishop is going to be there, and if the bishop's there without being able to vote, we actually lose a key component. I think the bishop's vote is also important in it's reflecting the wider society. Being politicians, we're reflecting areas, groups of people, and things like that.
But the bottom line is he hasn't been voted there.
Yeah, but I was only voted in on one specific day at one specific moment in time. In terms of the bishop, he's been selected by a group of people, and they feel he's going to have benefits for the island, benefits for Tynwald.
We're in an interregnum, we're in between bishops. Obviously, the province of York is deciding who to be the next bishop. Do you think this move could influence them?
I think there's a concern that could happen. I hope it won't happen, but that's the question I did ask in terms of this is a really crucial point for the island going forward.
Because it alters the parameters of the bishop's role here.
Definitely.
Well, I think it's sad it's happened in an interregnum, if you wish, between bishops. I think it would have been respectful if it had happened during the tenure of a bishop rather than in this period of, and especially soon after his...
So was it malevolent timing, Mr. Ashford referred to?
I don't know for sure, but people will make up their own minds on that.
Infrastructure Minister Tim Crookall, MHK, insists Manx government wants to engage with local authorities to get their view on a possible housing association for the Isle of Man. He says authorities don't have to get involved if they don't want to, but they could.
We are now moving on with this behind the scenes. There's paperwork being done on that, but sooner or later we'll get out and start talking to those that want to be involved with it, and we'll give those local authorities the opportunity to talk to us about, how they see it, whether they want to get involved or not. If they don't want to get involved, that's fine. That's up to them. But nobody is forcing anybody. As has been said time and time again, this is something we're going out, and this is still a consultation period. There's no guarantees this is going to happen, but we're looking at it very closely. Since I've gone back in the department, I'm learning more about it, but from those that have gone before me and the work that's gone in, and I do thank Minister Thomas, the former minister there, and the Chief Minister during the summer. There was a lot of work done on this, and the staff as well, and possibly, it looks as though it is something that can work for the island and work well.
Update brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300.
Big moment for netball on the Isle of Man. The island's hosting the first ever Netball Invitational Island Games, with 6 island nations competing in matches at the NSC across 5 days. Tournament got underway earlier today. The Isle of Man netball head of performance Claire Batty believes it could help sport develop in many different ways.
This is really exciting for us. It's something that we've thought about. We've always wanted to be part of the Island Games, so that takes a bit of process and a bit of time, and so doing it ourselves and inviting a number of islands over has been a really exciting process for us. We're really expecting these islands to bring it to us. We think it's going to be a great competition, so there's going to be so much to learn in every aspect, and that's a huge thing that we're putting on this tournament this time. It's not just about the playing. We can develop in so many other ways and really make great partnerships with these islands who will come up against the same issues that we do, that we can share best practice. So not only is it about the playing, it's about really solidifying our relationships with these islands. We all come up against the same problems with travel, so we're hoping that we'll be able to share best practice, best timings, how people go about managing funding, all the other things that we might be able to take netball forward with. We are hoping that we can share best practice ourselves, so we've got some tutors coming over to help develop our umpires and the umpires from the other islands, and the same with the match bench as well. So hopefully we can make this tournament have some longevity for the future by developing each other. It could be hugely inspiring, and like I say again, it's not always about the playing, so anybody that comes down, we're always looking for any help. Anything that people want to get involved in is huge for us. So if you have played in the past and you're looking to get more into the event side, then there's something for everyone there, and especially our younger players, if they can get down and come and watch these girls, this is their future, this is what they're fighting for. So if they can come down and watch as well, that would be amazing.
The Education Minister has defended head teachers having responsibilities for more than one school, saying they still can be true leaders. In the House of Keys today, MHK Jason Morehouse quizzed Julie Edge, the Minister, on the leadership model, saying such a format could be hindering career progression for other staff. The Minister says that's not the case, and she was backed up by a Douglas MHK.
This is actually creating career opportunities opportunities for our deputy head teachers and teachers in our schools to move forward and take up roles of head teacher. Certainly when we've introduced heads of more than one school 7 years ago, there's certainly been some excellent results. But the key point to make is that a head of more than one school, and the Honourable Member stated this on Manx Radio today, can be a true leader, and leadership is what's required in all of our schools.
Mine and my colleague, Mr. Wannenberg's constituency of Douglas North has seen one of these changes, particularly at Williston School. Would the Minister agree with me that actually, although there was a lot of concern at the time, a year or so in, it seems to be working well, and that when it comes to leadership in schools, it shouldn't all be focused on one individual or the head teacher, and in fact we need to get over this fascination and focus on the one individual approach, and that what actually matters when it comes to leadership in schools is the actual entire leadership team and how they're interacting with the schools as a whole.
I certainly agree wholeheartedly with what the Honourable Member has stated. In the last 3 years, we've had concerns that we've not had a number of head teachers coming forward for posts, so this has been an opportunity for our head teachers to step up and be ahead of more than one school. And I'm really pleased to see that Douglas North are seeing a difference. And certainly, some of our schools have been put forward for awards, in national awards, up against all of the schools in the UK, and have been shortlisted to the finals, and that's from a head of more than one school. And I think that's a credit to the Isle of Man and the impact of good leadership in our schools.
Sea Watch with the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company.
Motor vessel Manxman departed Heysham at 29 minutes past 2. She'll be into the bay any moment now, onto the link span just after 6 o'clock. And then departing this evening at 7:45, heading for Heysham, getting there about 11:30 tonight. The overnight departure's 2:15, back to Douglas at 6 tomorrow morning. And the morning departure tomorrow is 8:45, Manxman to Heysham.
Like the Steam Packet on Facebook for the latest sailing information.
A Douglas man's been fined after his heckling of a visiting comedian went too far. Baby driver James Glover of Sumark Croft was ejected from the Gaiety Theatre on the 19th of October in court for Manx Radio Tessa Hawley.
The 38-year-old appeared at Douglas Courthouse, where he entered a guilty plea to being drunk and disorderly at the entertainment venue in Douglas. The court heard Glover was watching Simon Brodkin's comedy performance Screwed Up that evening when he began heckling and disrupting the first half. Brodkin is the most viewed British comedian of all time on TikTok and was visiting the island after a sold-out, critically acclaimed Edinburgh Fringe run. The court heard the performer had warned the defendant about his behaviour before the interval. At 9 p.m, as staff were asking Glover to move to a seat near the exit, he became argumentative and began swearing. Glover was escorted out but began struggling with one of the staff members before punching a door and making threats, including telling one employee, "I'll take your head off." Police arrested Glover outside. He continued to swear at them and, in interview at police headquarters, told them he'd been drinking and taking prescription medication. Glover's advocate told the court his client deeply regrets his actions, adding he wishes to apologise to everyone involved. Fining Glover £260, Deputy High Bailiff Rachel Braidwood told him he was interrupting the enjoyment of others, ordering him to pay £125 in prosecution costs. She added, "It is clear that you were highly intoxicated at the time. You behaved in an appalling manner towards the staff at the Gaiety Theatre."
Manx Radio Business Briefing.
At 16 minutes before 6, the accounting giant PricewaterhouseCoopers will cut approximately 600 UK-based roles, a move that comes hot on the heels of similar moves by fellow Big Four firms KPMG and Deloitte. And for a full daily market report, go to ramseycrocourt.com. Airbnb has been ordered to hand over €779.5 million to Italian authorities over alleged tax evasion. Landlords in Italy are required to pay a 21% tax on their earnings, and prosecutors say the firm failed to collect the landlord's tax on €3.7 billion of rental income. Airbnb told the BBC it was surprised and disappointed. Spokesperson Christopher Nutley said the firm's European headquarters have been working working to resolve the matter with the Italian tax agency since June. In addition, 3 people who held managerial roles at Airbnb from 2017 to 2021 were also under investigation. Milan tribunal prosecutors said in a statement, in 2022, Airbnb challenged the Italian law requiring the company and other short-term rental providers to withhold 21% of the rental income from landlords and pay it to the tax authorities. The firm argued that Italy's requirements on taxation contravene the EU's principle of freedom to provide services across the 27-country bloc. The EU's top court later ruled that Airbnb should abide by the requirements.
The Stock Market Report. Brought to you by Ramsey Crookall.
UK and European stock markets closed lower. The dollar advanced as last week's rally in riskier currencies took a breather. Oil hit fresh lows as mixed economic data from China offset the impact of Saudi Arabia and Russia extending output cuts, and the gold fell on a firmer dollar. The numbers now reported by Ramsey Crookall. At the close in London, the FTSE 100 down 0.1% at 7,410. The DAX in Frankfurt up just over 0.1% at the close, 15,152. In New York City a short time ago, the Dow Jones Industrial up 0.25%, 34,187. The Nasdaq Tech Stocks Index is up 1%, 13,660. The S&P 500 in Chicago up 0.4% at 4,383. In the exchange markets, the British pound sterling trading at $1 22.9 cents, €1 15 cents, and 22 South African rand 57.7 cents. In commodities, gold's down almost 0.7% at $1,964 per troy ounce, and a barrel of Brent crude down 3% at $82.51.
You've got an investment plan?
Yeah, Mike set it up.
But don't you need loads of money to do that?
Not this one. It's called Shearwater from Ramsey Crookall, and you pay in monthly as little as £100. So it's like saving regularly, really helping us invest in the future for a house, or the kids' education.
£100 a month? I could easily do that.
You should. The sooner you start, the better.
Invest in your future with as little as £100 a month. Shearwater from Ramsey Crookall, the island's investment specialist for 75 years. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
The Isle of Man in 30 minutes. Update on Manx Radio with Andy Wint.
Fast am I. Good evening. Thanks for dropping by. The Coosh has been on lately, the Manx language event, and the importance of learning Manx has been the topic of conversation at the festival. Those people who attended Coosh events have been sharing what they think.
When I was young, my granddad spoke Manx, and he was always known as Shanair, but I never knew that Shanair wasn't actually his name. His name was Norman, and that's true. And I remember asking my parents once, why is there a card for Norman when his name's Shanair? Oh, well, Shanair's Manx. And that sort of sparked my interest. People often say to me, well, why are you learning Manx? Why aren't you learning French? Well, when am I going to practice my French or any other language? Whereas here, I can speak to people on a daily basis, email them, text them.
I've been trying for years now to try and learn Manx, and it's super hard when it's a language that is very hard to find on an island, which is very strange considering it's our national tongue. The little bit that we use around the house, it's hard because you're asked something in Manx, you go back into your mind, you try to find it in English, and then you translate it, and people are very patient, and it's very important. It's important to me as a Manxman anyway. It's still not in the middle of the community where it should be, but I think it's definitely getting there. The language is what binds us, especially generations of it not being used so much and pushing it for growth. We should be going out to find more use in the community for it, and I think people, when they come over and find out that we have our own indigenous language, will probably engage.
I've always had an interest in languages when I grew up in Germany, so I've learnt Manx myself, and I think it's an amazing thing to teach because it's the language of the Isle of Man, and we need to keep it alive and keep it going and keep it for the future.
Manx Radio Sport.
Fast am I, Rob Pritchard.
Fast am I. Good evening. Well, we've already heard about the hopes for the first ever Island Invitational netball games, which started today in Douglas. So what's been happening on the court so far? Well, Shetland won the opening match of the tournament this morning with a 60-49 victory over Innismon. Shetland coach Vicky Smith says the team's been looking forward to being part of this event.
They were absolutely buzzing, just ready to go when we were going on that court, and we just told them to enjoy it. We haven't played this team before, so it was all new to us, but they did so well. brilliant to be here, brilliant to play new teams, so just excited for tomorrow.
The second contest of the day saw Jersey beat Orkney 64-29 a short time ago. Jersey head coach Serena Kirsten gave her reaction to her side's win.
Overall, obviously pleasing. You've got to find a way to win, I think, in these types of games. Most of the teams here we've never played before, apart from Guernsey, so it was always going to be a nervy start for us, I think, from our part, and just, looking what the opposition were doing against us and how we can adapt to that.
Meanwhile, the hosts, the Isle of Man, will shortly take to the court at the NSC for their opening match against Guernsey. That's due to start in just under 10 minutes' time. In athletics, Manx athlete Sarah Aston has earned another call-up to represent England's cross-country squad. The Belgrave Harriers competitor is one of 4 included in the senior women category to take part in the Cross Italica in Seville in Spain this Sunday. It comes after Sarah and her sister Gemma Aston were part of the Belgrave Harriers senior women's squad, which won the title at the English National Cross-Country Relays in Mansfield last Sunday. And in badminton, the Isle of Man badminton squad has secured what it's described as a very strong 5th place finish at an inaugural European event held over the weekend. 6 players form the Manx team, taking part in the first ever Small States of Europe Badminton Team Championships in Malta from Friday to Sunday last week. The opening day saw the Isle of Man suffer defeat to Cyprus, followed by a win against Greenland. On day 2, a loss to Iceland was then followed by a commanding 5-0 victory in their final match against Gibraltar.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Inbound at Ronaldsway, the 7:30 EasyJet from Gatwick's on time. 10 to 8 Loganair from London City is on time, and the 5 to 8 Loganair from Liverpool, the returning patient transfer, showing on time. Outbound, 6 o'clock Loganair to Liverpool on time. The 10 past 8 EasyJet back to Gatwick again on time. There's a closure of a section of Bretney Close in Derby. They're doing some construction work there. And in Port St Mary, temporary lights at the junction of Queen's Road and Park Road for gas main work. Queen Street, Castletown's closed for resurfacing. And some lights on Peveril Road for resurfacing in Peel. Also lights on Queen's Drive for patching work. Old Laxey Hill's closed for excavation work. You may have noticed Newcastle Town Road is open. Some resurfacing done at the bottom of Richmond Hill. There are temporary lights on a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit. The road past the Energy from Waste plant is a dead end again at the junction with Richmond Hill. Hillside Avenue is closed through to Circular Road, Douglas, for adjacent office replacement. Temporary lights at Glen Crutchery Road at the roundabout with Victoria Road, and a section of Switzerland Roads closed through till November next year for construction work.
Quayside Tyres and Service Centre with 1 year's free engine warranty from Castrol. Get more with
Crimestoppers on the Isle of Man was contacted nearly 350 times in the first 8 months of the year. The service allows people to anonymously report crimes. Volunteers there, Karen Ramsey and Paul O'Shea.
It's been a higher year recently than it has been in previous years, so we think although we haven't been promoting Crimestoppers in the island very actively recently, people are still picking up the phone or going online and reporting, which is great. Obviously more people who might be fresh to the island and be familiar with Crimestoppers and have used it previously. It may be that people are more concerned about, for example, drugs issues and feel that they want to report those. So there could be a number of different factors.
We will never know why or where they provide that. That's the whole point of Crimestoppers. But the fact that the numbers are going up is actually the key for us, and we will continue to promote and encourage more people to have the confidence in contacting Crimestoppers if they feel that it isn't appropriate to engage with the police.
People are very aware of when they see traffic accidents or when they see crimes taking place, but we're very aware of the vulnerable people in our society, so where there's domestic abuse taking place, child exploitation, and actually modern slavery has been a growing issue, and we can't pretend that the Isle of Man may not be vulnerable to these things, so we need to be very alive to that and encouraging people to look out for the signs and report.
Quite often people are wary about providing that information, but with the Crimestoppers everything is totally anonymous, and what we are promoting now is our Crimestoppers app. So if people have got information about that, they're able, in whatever language, we've got multiple languages, can actually lay down in that app, the information that they've got. They can press send, and that's it. They've done their job, their duty in terms of passing that information on. That will come to Crimestoppers, and we will disseminate.
Update Brought to you by Simcox Advocates.
6 minutes before 6. If you're an Update podcast listener listening anywhere in the world, any time of day or night, right now, indeed, thanks for making Update the Isle of Man's most subscribed to news podcast. We really appreciate it. We're told we can expect another bad flu season this winter on the island. Manx Care's operations director says last year was particularly bad for admissions with the illness. Oliver Radford's been discussing winter planning at the health body's board meeting.
The seasonal flu programme is underway. The vast majority of it's been provided by primary care. We are offering co-administration but the uptake of that is quite low, only about 25%. People who go for a COVID booster elect to get the flu jab at the same time. So it's principally being provided by primary care. The cohort of flu is reduced compared to last year. So JCVI has recommended, I think it's 65 and above and clinically vulnerable, which matches the COVID booster. Last year it was 50 plus, which does leave us potentially more vulnerable, but I'm assured that the experts in the JCVI know what they're doing in terms of making that recommendation. Last year was a particularly bad flu season from an admission point of view. The data from Australia, which tends to be the Australia have a bad season, we have a bad flu season. They've had another bad flu season, so we most likely will have another bad flu season here. From a winter planning point of view, the addition of more staff will help to alleviate that. But from my understanding of the initial flu uptake figures that primary care produced, the uptake is higher this year than last year, which is good. And the uptake of COVID is about the same as last year. So hopefully that increase in uptake, as I say, we did have a bad flu season. So hopefully that's spurred some people on to have the flu vaccine this year, particularly in that vulnerable group.
That's it for Update tonight. Compiled from the resources of Manx Radio's news department. Thanks to newsreader Christian Jones, producer Amy Griffiths. Christian's back with the advent of AI after 6, The Folk Show with John Barker at 9, and I'm back tomorrow at 5:30.
WINT